Hi everyone, in today's tutorial we are taking a look at Blender's new curve to tube modifier. This modifier lets you quickly turn any curve into cylindrical or completely custom tube shape, and it even auto generates UV map for easy texturing and materials. In this video I'll show you exactly how it works and we'll go through every single setting inside the modifier step by step. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So to add this modifier, head over to modifier tab, select your curve and click on add modifier, generate and curve to tube. Now if you guys see the interface of this modifier, you guys can see it's created using geometry nodes. If we open a new window and open geometry node editor, and if we have selected this modifier, you guys can see the geometry node setup, and we are unable to edit this modifier. This is only for showcase. You guys can see this node base setup and learn from it. As you can see that our curve has now turned into a cylindrical shape. This is the most basic and common use of this modifier. Okay, so the first setting that we have is scale. This setting controls how big the tube will be. If you guys increase the scale, you guys can see the size of the tube is increasing, and beneath that we have profile, and this is for how the tube will actually look. As you guys can see, we have a mode here, the round mode. This will make it in a cylindrical shape, and the resolution, if you guys increase the resolution, you guys can see it's becoming more smooth. If you guys go into wireframe mode, you guys can see the vertices. As you guys can see, if I come to 7, there are less faces here, and if I increase it, it just get increased. And now if we come here to the mode, you guys can see we have another mode called custom. So here is how it works. First, add another curve. In this example, I'm going to add a circle, and then I am going to mess around with the points to create a shape something like this. And then I'm going to select this curve, and in this drop down menu I'm going to select that Bezier curve. And now as you guys can see here, now our curve will look like this all throughout the entire thing. Now if you guys want to smooth it out or increase the resolution, you guys can select the original curve and then come to curve data properties and increase the resolution to make it more smooth. And also if you guys come here to the modifiers tab, you guys can see for both round and custom, you guys can shade everything smooth out from this checkbox, as you guys can see. Next is the resample value, and here you can add more geometry to curve to help him smooth it out. And there are 4 different types: evaluated, auto, count, and then length. Evaluated will not resample the curve, it will just use the original resolution of the mesh in the curve data properties. If you guys come to curve data properties and increase the resolution from here, it will just control from here if you guys set it to evaluated. And then we have auto. Now this will add geometry automatically on the curve by decreasing the scale value. If I come here and if I decrease the resolution of it and come here, and I can decrease the scale to add more geometry to it. Increasing the value will decrease the number of cuts, and decreasing the value will increase the number of cuts. And then we have count. This gives you the exact number of cuts that you want in your object. Like if I increase the counts, you guys can see there will be 32 edges in it. This works like our loop cut tool, where we can add loop cuts by pressing Ctrl+R or on any our object. Here this works like this number of cuts. So the last mode is length, and this will take a distance value and add a new cut for every time it reaches that new distance, regardless of how long the curve actually is. This can be useful if you have multiple curves throughout your scene and you wanna keep the resolution consistent across each one of them. This is how it works. I can show you guys. Duplicate the curve, go into edit mode, and if I increase the length of it and I can go into wireframe mode, you guys can see. Next we have the caps tab. This determines what the end of the curve will look like. So if the mod is set to flat, then the end will look completely remains flat, just like this. And if we set it to round, it will give it a smooth rounded edge. Round will give the ends a more rounded look. And when you guys have selected rounded, you have three more options. First we have merge. Merge will actually merge the caps and the curve together. If I can show you guys, there is a harsh transition here. If I check the merge option, you guys can see it merge those points together. If you don't want to merge the vertices, what you can do is uncheck merge and check this align normals. Align normals is a similar effect, but it keeps the caps and the curve actually separated. And the other option, which is extrapolate radius, basically it gives a smoother end to the curve. If I can show you guys, go into edit modes, then select any of the points, press alt plus S on your keyboard to reduce the radius of it. And if we reduce the radius, you guys can see we have this. And sometimes the align normals works and sometimes it doesn't work, and like in this case we have to use the merge option. And if we come here, as you guys can see, if I uncheck the extrapolate radius, you guys can see the transition is looking, it creates a harsh transition between them. So if you guys enable it, it makes them smoother. And then we have custom. Custom gives you an option to use another mesh to control the end of the curve. If I add a curve, if I add a cone here, and I'm going to set the mod to count for now. And if we come, and now if I add a cone here again, I can see the vertices. The vertex count is 32. So I'm going to place it here, and then I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to increase the radius of it, so guys so I can show you guys. And then I'm going to set the count to 32. It's okay. And then here, if we come here to caps tab, and if we set the type to custom, you guys can see we have two options here that we can select. First one is start. It will control how the start of the cap will look like. And then we have the end. This will also control how the end will look like. If we set the origin to geometry, and if I select this bottom face and I'm going to delete it, select these faces, shift S cursor to select it, set origin to 3D cursor, and now you guys can see we have this. This is without the merge selected, and if we click on merge again, you guys can see it merge those objects together to create a seamless transition. And now if we duplicate it and RX 180, and I'm going to select this one here on the end, and I feel like it's hard to play with the custom because you guys have to play with the origin to get your exact look to match it with it. And here, if I can show you guys, it's not working well, and because we have to apply the rotation of it. And here you guys can see we have this on the end as well. And the last tab that we have here is the UV map, and here is how the textures will be applied to the curve objects. There are two different parameters that you need to consider, U and V. U is for the coordinates along the curve from here like this, and V is for the coordinates of the circumference of the curve. So this one is for U, and this one is for V. When you select any of these parameters, you have three different options to choose from, and this will affect how the UV is generated. So let's go through each one. Length is probably easiest to understand. It takes the real world length of the curve and generates a UV map based on that. This can be useful when you want your texture scale to the actual physical size of the curve object. Like if I go into edit mode, select this, and if I increase the size of it, you guys can see it generates a UV map something like this. The factor normalize the UV map to a 1 by 1 grid. This can be pretty useful if you want general UV maps and you want consistent UVs across different lengths of the curve. And then we have index. Index is a little bit more complicated. Basically what it does, it assigns a number to each point along the curve. Like if I go into wireframe mode, it just starting from 0 to 1, 2 and so on. Then in the UV map, it evenly distributes them regardless of how far the points are from each other. This is a little bit more niche, but it can be useful if you want to align textures precisely at control points along the curve. And then the last setting that we have is consider curve radius. When this checkbox is checked, the UV will stretch along the y-axis based on the radius throughout the curve. And you guys can see right here, if I go into edit mode and if I can increase it and then subdivide it one time, and then I'm going to reduce the radius of it from here, and here you guys can see it's stretching out on the y-axis. Like now if I disable the consider curve radius, you guys can see it just goes something like this, and if I enable it and it's stretched like this. So this modifier is useful if you guys want to create tubes, pipes or pull for something architecture like thing. So yeah, there we go. Now we have covered every single setting in the curve to tube modifier. If you have some suggestions for tutorials you would like to see in the future, let me know in the comments down below. So yeah, that's it for today's video. If you guys have learned something, make sure to like and subscribe. And thanks again for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, bye bye.